Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom and peace be upon you. My name is Muhammad Emmanuel Yeshua, and a lot of our colleagues, especially my beautiful Caucasian brother over there, we were actually having a huge debate regarding about evolution and the evolution of man. It looks as though that man has been stunted in their growth as their evolution has been stunted within themselves, that keeps them from growing to the next position of life. Since the next position of life is supposed to be about love, then it looks like we're being tried and tested in a position of love where we're capable of looking at each other for who we are, or even in the opposite manner that allows us to see ourselves as mirrors. Now, when we see ourselves as mirrors, the first thing that we want to do is strike each other. You know, you want to strike me because you hate me, and I want to strike you because you misunderstand me. Now, at the end of the day, it looks like when we're hitting a mirror, nothing's going to happen, but the mirror is going to shatter. We're going to be able to look at ourselves for who we are, and then we're going to be able to understand why we hate each other. Now, this is called the opposite reflection of a mirror, because what we see is him, and what he sees is us. So when he strikes us and so on and so forth, and when that mirror shatters, we actually find out that it's actually us that we're actually striking. So the people that we end up hating are the people that we end up looking like, and then when we go to heaven, hell, wherever it is that we go, we end up looking like the very same people that we actually hate. The children like to call this as the reverse butterfly effect. Now, what happens is the butterfly actually manages to fly. It doesn't understand how it was born, doesn't understand how it was conceived. How you doing? God bless you. And you look gorgeous. They don't know how they were conceived. They don't know how they were birthed or even lived life. And even Satan or Lucifer himself manages to go and understand this, because if God is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent, then only he knows how we were born and how we were created. So the butterfly manages to fly to wherever it is that it's got to get to, turns itself into a cocoon-like form, and then comes back out as a caterpillar. Now, the process is supposed to repeat itself, but you have to understand that the process is never going to repeat itself, because when a caterpillar gets to the destination that he has to, how you doing, baby? God bless you too. Astaghfirullah. That was a very beautiful woman who actually acknowledged me as a beautiful man, but nonetheless, we're going to keep her identity private. So the caterpillar goes to where he actually has to get to, and when he says to himself, I'm ready to go back into a cocoon-like stage where I'm capable of becoming a butterfly, he looks at where his final destination is and realizes that he can no longer go into a cocoon-like fashion, because he already has become a butterfly. He already has become a cocoon. So when he sits there and look at himself in a form of rebirth and life, he just sits there and breaks down and says, that's weird. All right. So nonetheless, the caterpillar gets to the points where he actually gets to, and then he says to himself, well, I can no longer go further in my path, so I have to sit here and wither and die. Now, the concept of that in the form of Jesus Christ is that Jesus Christ actually had to see himself as that very same bush or that very same plant, where he says to himself, man, this plant or this bush bears no fruit. So since it bears no fruit, then it has to wither and die. But since Jesus Christ is actually supposed to be compassionate towards things like that, because there are certain women that bear no fruit, there are certain men who bear no fruit. So at the end of the day, he sits there and says to himself, man, I have to look at myself like if I was the bush. Yes, I am royalty. Yes, I am glory. Yes, I am the Prince of Light. But at the end of the day, I am man. So I have to look at everything with compassion and dignity and love. Just like that very beautiful woman. And I'm about to send 50 angels over there that's going to pray for her and let her know that she loves them and that they love her. So when Jesus Christ or Jesus Emmanuel or Emmanuel or whatever name you may know him as is capable of looking at this like, well, this bush is a representation of who I am, because if I am not capable of bearing no fruit, then who am I to sit here and judge the bush and say, wither and die? So when Jesus Christ says wither and die, he goes back to the very same bush, and the bush is actually full of life, because that bush is a representation of who he is. So he says to himself, even my glory, even my death sentence, to the very same things who acknowledge myself and acknowledge my existence, comes back to life, because Jesus is the taker of life and the giver of life. And since Jesus Christ is life itself, then even when Jesus Christ says to something wither and die, it will always come back. And since it comes back better and it comes back new, then that bush is capable of creating. You know what? I'm actually about to give this woman a kiss, because you know what? She actually deserves that. He is capable of understanding that even when you wither and die, you are capable of bearing fruit. Because even if you are not capable of bearing fruit at your prime, then you are capable of bearing fruit at your re-existence or reincarnation or regeneration of yourself. So when Jesus Christ tells the bush to wither and die, it withers and die, but the roots still stay in the same nonetheless. So all I want you to know is that even though Jesus Christ tells you to wither and die, your roots are still good. It says bad tree, bad fruit, but it never said bad root. So nonetheless, this is what Jesus Christ taught me as his brother Emmanuel, or Emmanuel, or even Jesus Christ himself. Now, I may go through a lot of persecution and I may go through a lot of prosecution by my very own people, but nonetheless, at the end of the day, it's to be able to teach people that we love people and that we love people no matter what. So since we love each other, let's stop evolving to a point where we stop loving each other and start hating, because the evolution of love is hate. Because if love can't evolve after that, and there is no point after love, then what is the opposite of love if love is the beginning? It's hate. So we have to be able to stunt ourselves and continue to keep ourselves in ourselves, so that way we can stay at that age of love. And really the next level of love is submission, which means what we submit that hate is not a part of us. I love you a lot, baby girl. I actually want to marry you.
I'm married.
You'll marry me? Where are we going? So, assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom and peace be upon you. My name is Mohammed Emmanuel Yeshua, and you are the best thing that ever happened to me.